Hello, welcome back to the channel. As you can tell by the title of this video, I'll be talking about 10 experiences I think that every single person should experience at least once in their life. And this is going to be through the lens of having a very enriched life where you have so many interesting stories to tell. Obviously, I think that every single person, right, should take whatever circumstances they've been given and make the right decisions that would help to make their life more fulfilling for them. That's what I called a life well lived. So ultimately, I want to hear about your own experiences. If I leave anything out of the 10 that I will talk about, please let me know. If you've had the privilege of participating in any or all of them, let me know as well. So here are the top 10 things that every single person should do at least once in their lifetime. First, hop in a stranger's car. So I know it sounds strange, right? But I'm going to give you some context. If you're female, don't ever get in a stranger's car. Obviously, if you're walking down the street and a stranger honks and asks you to get in their car, don't get in. They might kidnap you. And I've had that happen to me twice in New York, where I was walking down the street and then someone honked their car and then signaled that I come over. And then I went and kept my distance, and then we talked for 2 minutes and they wanted me to get in their car and I said no. But I've also traveled internationally, right? And this happened to me twice, first in Berlin and second in Paris, where I was taking a stroll down the street. I got talking with locals and we talked for 15-20 minutes, and then once they realized that I was a tourist, they got to know a lot more about me and I got to know a lot more about them. Then they offered to show me around town in their car and I hopped in. I didn't have any, I wasn't expecting anything terrible to happen. I just let go. I went with the flow and I'm still alive, and we've kept in touch. So I think for the thrill of it, everyone should hop in a stranger's car. Not everyone. If you're female, please don't do that. Second point, explore a different religion. I have had the privilege of exploring different religions. So obviously I was raised Muslim. My family is Muslim. All of my family is Muslim. But every single school that I've been to was Catholic. I went to a Catholic middle school. I went to a Catholic elementary school. I went to an all-boys Catholic boarding school for high school. And in Catholic school, we went to church twice a day. And we learned about the Bible. We learned about the Catholic religion and the Catholic faith. And it wasn't just a compliance exercise for me, right? Even though I was young, I just immersed myself into it and I learned about Christianity. And it facilitated cross-cultural understanding for me. Because of that, most of my friends have been Catholic and Christian, right? And I think that it's a great opportunity for you to unlearn some of the biases you may have learned through your own socialization. Point number 3, move away from home. And I'm not talking just taking a weekend trip to the closest town that's near your hometown, right? Move far away from home. And how that builds your character is that, first of all, it makes you appreciate your family a lot more. It helps you to find yourself and figure out who you are outside of your family and outside of everything that you have learned within your circles. Point number 4, travel and live abroad. Travel and live abroad, and yes, study abroad counts. So I think that just having to navigate a foreign country and a different culture and possibly a different language that you don't speak, it forces you out of your comfort zone and it can put you in a very uncomfortable spot. But that discomfort forces you to become a better version of yourself if you're having to constantly talk to the locals wherever it is you find yourself to get things done, right? But I think that everyone should travel abroad and live abroad for some time. I'm not talking about a summer vacation or a winter getaway. I wouldn't count that as traveling abroad. I'm talking about actually living in a different country for 3 to 6 months. Point number 5, live alone. So either you buy your own house if you're able to, or you rent in your own name. So you rent as a primary occupant. And that forces you to be independent, right? And if you're having to not depend on anyone for your expenses or the upkeep of your home, it builds your character in so many ways. Now, obviously, living alone comes with its pros and cons, and I've had the privilege of living by myself for many, many years. I love it 99% of the time, but there are times when I need help with putting on my bow tie, and that can be a struggle if there's no one else to help with that. There are times when I need help with doing the button on my cuff, and if there's no one to help with that, it can be a struggle. There are times when I've had to ask a stranger on the subway to help me with my cuff buttons, and they thought it was cute, but I'd rather not inconvenience them. So point number 1, hop in a stranger's car. Point number 2, explore a different religion other than yours. Point number 3, move away from home. Point number 4, travel abroad. Travel and live abroad. Point number 5, live alone. Point number 6, solo travel. So many people are terrified of traveling by themselves, and people always ask, what am I going to do all by myself? Trust me, when you travel by yourself, you figure out what to do. And just like living abroad or moving away from home, it forces you to find who you are outside of your family, outside of the values that you grew up with. And it challenges your thinking, because if all of a sudden you have all of this time to yourself and you don't know what to do with it, you start to question yourself, what do I really want to do? Have the things that I've always done been because I had access to them or they were proximal to me. It forces you to unlearn some of the biases that you have learned. And again, it makes for cross-cultural understanding to come into play. Point number 7, get involved in some outrageous or unconventional sports like skydiving or scuba diving, especially if you can't swim like myself, or riding motorcycles. And I've had the privilege of doing all those 3 and even some more, and just the excitement that comes with it. I think that it helps you get over your fear, and there's always that fear of what if there is an accident, but to be able to participate in that, you have to make peace with the fact that, hey, I'm taking a chance for a thrilling experience, but there is a chance that I might get hurt, or I might not live to tell the story. But if you can overcome that fear, believe me, there is nothing else you cannot face. Point number 8, learn a language other than your native language. In line with promoting cross-cultural understanding, I think that if you can learn a foreign language, right, not just as compliance exercise, but enjoy the process of doing so. First of all, it's good for your brain. It's good for your cognitive development, because your brain is going to constantly have to rewire, and it's just good for building your character. But also, if you're able to learn that language, then indirectly you immerse yourself into that culture, and then you learn about that culture, and then whatever stereotypes that you may have had about it, you start to unlearn those stereotypes, and it makes for a very, a culturally enriching experience. Okay, so 6, solo travel. 7, extreme sports. 8, learn a foreign language. 9, live in a village. Live in some type of village or an establishment that is far away from civilization, and possibly, especially without electricity or running water. I say that because if you were raised with always having electricity and always having running water, and I fall into that bucket as well. I was born at a place where we had electricity and running water, and unfortunately, most of the world lives in establishments where there's no constant water Like they don't have a constant supply of running water or constant electricity supply. And so if you're able to live in that space and you're able to thrive and disconnect from the rest of the world, it makes you to appreciate life a lot more. But it also forces you to connect with nature and just find peace in being away from the internet and from civilization. But believe me, I've had a privilege of doing that, right? Living in places where there wasn't constant supply of water or electricity. And to give you some context, it was on a boat in the Maldives, right? And during the day, they would switch off the water and the electricity and we'll go out to explore. And yeah, it was nice. It was fun to be away from constantly having light and air conditioning and running waters. And I think that it contributes to building character as well. Point number 10, and this is very important to me: volunteer in your community without seeking acknowledgement for it or without seeking payment. I think that if every single person can, at some point in their life, just dedicate their time and their expertise to a cause that they care about without seeking payment for it or without seeking acknowledgement for it, we will have a much more loving society where people are willing to do good for other people without being scared, especially in a place like New York, where when you walk down the street, people seem to be scared or apprehensive about other people. So share in the comments, let me know if you've had the privilege of experiencing any or all of these 10 experiences. If not, let me know which one you're most excited to do first, right? And I'm happy to connect and learn from you as well. All right, thanks.